Okay, good.
You might have.
I know you want to talk about Ohio State. I'll answer a few questions on that, and then we'll go to the team at hand. I'm not going to tell you about our scheme, though. So just going to tell you that. That's right. So.
The scheme for ECU, you mean? Or?
No, yeah.
I mean, they're two spread teams, but they do very different.
Yeah, they're totally different. Ohio State spreads you to run the ball. These guys, a run is a quick game, that type of thing. Now they want to run the football. They want to establish the run, and they want to be. What's the word I want to say? They want to be, have a good enough running game that you got to account for it. And that's the one thing we can't allow them to do is have any success running the football. But that's where they're different. Ohio State, they run it for 308. These guys will throw it for 308 or more. And run it. If they can run it for 100, that'd be great. 150. I mean, that would be for these guys would be great. For Ohio State, that's not good enough. But they're two different kinds. The scheme we put in the other day for that game was one with these running quarterbacks that they have the ability to run two plays in one, so to speak, where you got a speed sweep and a power read, or you got a fake and a sweep this way but a counter coming back the other way. So we were just we had accountability for all the different the different plays, because as I told you guys in our meeting last week, this offense tries to split you in half. And, that's what we were making sure we had our half all in the right place, when it's all said and done. And we wanted to load up and stop the run and see if they could beat us throwing the football. And it was going to be with Braxton Miller or this guy, So we just kind of felt we put all of our eggs in one basket, and it worked,
I know you didn't want to go into the specifics of the scheme, but it sounds like the genesis of that was kind of from that Ole Miss trip.
Well, it was. And that's we kind of took a little bit of theirs with a little bit what we've done in the past with our Bear and Double Eagle package. We haven't run the Bear a lot, but we did some things a little bit different because you had to honor the quarterback on the backside, for read plays, or they'd run a fake here but run a zone play backside, and we always were accountable for him, So there was schematic things that we took from that trip, but there was also things that we had to do to keep us sound. I think if we'd have done that defense, they could have run out the back door on us, But we used a different variation of it, just to, without getting into details with it.
ECU likes to use their short pass, almost like a running game. How much pressure does that put on your corners to be good tacklers?
Well, it puts a lot on it. It puts a lot on our defense. We can't assume anything. I thought the thing we did a great job of the other night was we played with great effort every snap. We got to do that again, because with this is getting throwing the ball out in space with guys one-on-one, potentially, or in zones, and we've got to rally to it, make sure we're taking good angles, and can't assume it's going to be, a tackle. We can't assume that. We don't want any yards after a catch, but it could take a couple people doing that, and I think, these guys have some, really good skill players. I think the Hardy kid is as good a receiver as we'll see. Very dynamic. I think the quarterback is an outstanding player. I said that last year. We were able to get a little bit of pressure on him, but I think he's a dynamic kid. He can move around, and create plays when things aren't there. He's extremely accurate. I think where they've improved is their offensive line. They've got a couple transfer kids in there. A couple kids are a year older, and they look better. Moving better. They're you just see a team that really. There's got a good chemistry there themselves offensively, and they've worked together. They know when the quarterback's scrambling, the guy that's going deep's coming back, the guy shallow's going. He knows where to find those guys, and it's just they're very efficient, and I'm impressed by them. I mean, they'll be one of the better teams I think we play all year once all's said and done.
I asked Charlie yesterday if that was probably Daddy's best game overall since he's been here. He said to this point, yes, and he said he's coming into the season that Daddy had to kind of answer some questions about whether he was a a 1 or 2 down per possession guy as opposed to an all 3 down guy. Do you feel like he's kind of
I think there we need to find out, can he play defensive line? He had a dynamic game against Ohio or Pittsburgh last year, but he played it we rushed him all the time. Now can he play can he play technique and fundamentals and be consistent on that? And he did that the other day. You guys can see he's very twitchy. And I think I've said this to some of you guys. I don't know if we've had a guy as explosive as this kid, as you know, since Corey Moore with this guy. Now, is he there yet? No, where Corey was. I mean, Corey really, you know, mastered his position and those type of things. But, you know, if Daddy continues to work and grows in the position and stays consistent, then he's got a chance to be really special, I think. You know, and he showed that the other day. I mean, I thought our quickness up front was really the difference in the football game. We were able to get pressure. We were able to, you know, penetrate and disrupt pullers, you know, on their run game and different things like that. So those guys were factors in a lot of plays. Maybe not, you know, by stat. Now, Daddy was because of, you know, sacks and things, but also in the run game. You know, those guys were factors in the game because of just their get off and just, you know, creating some disruption in there in the run game as much as, you know, just besides the pressure in the pass game.
This defense isn't quite as experienced as last year's group. Do you still see them moving from one scheme to the next? I mean, you've had kind of radically different stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, this scheme, like I said, people think it's radical, but we practiced it all spring, you know, and it was, you know, we had a little bit different variation, but it was the same. The same defense that we put in the spring, and we ran it in the fall, and, you know, during fall camp and that type of thing. We did a couple little wrinkles that our kids were able to do, but we also did that against our offense too. You know, so because of ways they started blocking us and things like that, so it married up for us when it was all said and done. So it was, like I said, the kids really couldn't have been more proud of them. They executed and they played extremely hard. You know, we were concerned about their, you know, not necessarily their speed, but taking some shots and you know, making some completions. They hit a couple. One kid made a great catch. The other one, you know, you know, beat Chuck Clark on a takeoff route, but you know, Chuck hustled and tackled him, and we held him to no points right there, you know, which was big. I kind of go to that next play, but you know, they had two runs that really, that one speed option, we missed a tackle, but there are two big runs where quarterbacks scrambles, you know, that popped out there. But that guy's going to do that every now and then. So, but ended up not costing us. So, but it was, you take about 4 or 5 plays out, though, you know, kids played a great football game. But I was real proud with their effort and their passion. We got to do that this Saturday, you know, against this crowd.
Did you enjoy, I mean, this week, sort of the national media has just been raving about your game plan and what you guys did.
You know what? I haven't even paid any attention to it. I've been too busy. I haven't been home since you know, before 11:30 this week.
But you got some phone calls. I mean, Washington Post,
well,
USA Today.
I talked to a girl from USA Today. You know, and but yeah, I mean, and if it was Mark, yeah, I mean, you know, he's just like you guys. You know, right? You know, no, he's not. You know, but
I'm glad we have that on tape.
Yeah, no, he's like you guys. And I say, you know, yeah, if you guys want to write something too, you know. But anyway, you know, we've moved on. I mean, it's great recognition for our kids. It's great recognition for our program to beat the quality program of Ohio State. You know, now. You know, I'd like to think our defense has been pretty consistent over the years, and this was just you know, because of who we beat, maybe we're getting a little bit more national attention. But you know, I'd like to think everybody saw that, you know, even though we haven't been on the, you know, in the top 10 like we'd been there for a stretch, that you know, we're still play pretty good defense when it's all said and done.
Did you get Corey back today?
He did some work. I don't know. I didn't see him in team time there a little bit. He did some individual work. You know, he's getting better every day. We're hoping to get him back. You know, we're counting on that. You know, but he says he feels better and better. But we'll still wait and see. You know, but boy, I tell you what, we'd like to get him back because he's twitchy inside, can, you know, create some things and some one-on-one, you know, matchups.
Possible for Saturday?
Yeah, I still think he's, you know, possible for Saturday.
How important is the trust you have with your corners that they can make plays in space last week, even this week, to open things up for you to call with, you know, the front 7, front 8 guys? Well,
it's big time, you know, and I personally think we got the best corner in the country playing for us in number 11, you know, when it's all said and done. And you know, he actually, we gave him one of our awards because, you know, we put him on an island all night. Did a hell of a job when it's all said and done. Am I allowed to say that? I mean, I was going to say that, but.
Running.
But no, you know, yeah, it does. It frees me up a little bit. But at the same time, we're playing good people. And we've got to be careful about that, that if you just keep putting them on an island, we've got to get some pressure too. And to get somebody in the guy's face, make him throw, with people around him, that type of thing. That helps when you put pressure on the quarterback that way. Helps those corners and those guys that you put on an island. But yeah, to have good people like that on the edges, that may free you up to do some things, pressure-wise, or to do some different things up front, and that can turn into pressure. Like the other night, we had just a 5-man rush, but we added to the backs. We added, if the guy blocked, we added to him. So a 5-man rush turned into 6-man rush, or a 6-man rush turned into 7, and then we got them on 3rd down, and they were a 6-man protection team. So we saw that, and then we just started kind of bringing 4 from a side where we just were messing with them, so they couldn't get a beat on us a little bit too. So, but having those corners that can do those things, or even just DBs, the way our safeties played too, allows us to do some things that maybe be a little more aggressive at times.
So was that Ohio State game plan the real reason that we weren't able to come to scrimmages? And we blame Loeffler for that. Was that?
That wasn't the main reason. No, I don't know.
Hurry up probably has something to do with it.
Huh?
Hurry up.
I think that had more than anything because that has not been our MO. And that's which I like that part of us. And Lefty does a good job. I think he's a heck of a football coach, and and changing the tempo up too of the offense. That I know that from a defensive standpoint, that can create a little chaos for us. So I'm excited for what he does. Now that may put us on the field a little bit more sometimes, than what we maybe have been. But we did hold the clock. We won the time of possession battle, which is he always wants to do, and that's big for us too. And as a football team. But that's probably when it was all said and done. We ran that bear look. You guys probably saw us in spring scrimmages doing it. We did it in the stadium there several times, like when Bucky got into Wildcat and all that kind of stuff. We were in it when they did that stuff, when they got into that stuff. So you might not have recognized it the way it looked. It looked a little different in the spring than it did Saturday night, just because how we had to tweak it for their quarterbacks and stuff. So.
This is to the end.
So did you time that intentionally for Monday, or was that just fortuitous?
Well, it was actually supposed to be at the Georgia Tech game, and got a phone call around 4 o'clock. Says we're doing this. So, all right.
Where were you when you got that call?
Staff room.
Yeah, of course.
Working on run action and run game.
So as long as you did that, tell us a little bit about ECU defensively. What do they look
You know what? I think they're a dangerous outfit, very good outfit. I think they're big and stout up front. Linebackers can all run. They're a mixture of over, under, and odd defense. They do some good things with their pressures. We're going to have to play great. I told our guys today that we have to go out and play our best football game, and we'll see where we're at with that. The challenge to our group is obviously we've had 2 good weeks, and what we've been making the big push was that every week we've got to improve, and what happened last week doesn't matter. We're trying to improve as a unit, and we've got to get better. We've got to get better this Saturday, and we've got to play our best football game, in my opinion, because I think this is a really good team. I do. Really good team.
I think you guys are 9 for 9 in red zone opportunities, and that was obviously an issue last year.
Yeah.
What have you seen this year that's been such a big difference?
Just like what happened last year, you ran into the situation where you lost a lot of people. You ran into a situation where we're not running any different plays. We just got guys that are healthy. We got Malik back. We got Bucky that moved over. You got the young freshmen that are contributing. Josh is playing really well right now. So they're playing really well, and we just need to keep improving. And just like I said, it was the anxiousness and the things that happened last year. We don't have that right now because we're healthy and guys are getting it. So we just need to keep improving.
Have you had to have any conversations with Michael about protecting himself and trying to limit hits? Is that something that concerns you at all?
Well, you're obviously it's an aggressive game. Obviously, if you've got a chance to get out of the way, you should get out of the way. But it's hard for competitive people to do that. And he's smart. He knows when to get out of trouble, when not to. If you watched going down we're in a coming out situation, he ran and stepped out of bounds. A lot of those hits that he took were he had to stay in the pocket and make a play, and those are the things that we didn't know about him. We didn't know if he could stay in there and take a vicious shot and make a play, and we found out he could do that, which that's huge. That's 90% of the position, is being able to stand in there. Guy coming barreling free that's 295 pounds that runs 4.6, and we found out that he can do that, and that's huge. It's huge.
We've talked about the fact that, not that you're not good, but that maybe a year away from this offense really being something special. Do you feel at all ahead of schedule right now based on the way they're playing?
No, we feel a little behind, actually. Just like I've said, we're doing some things better, but we're not consistently doing things better. We need to get that. If we can ever get to that point of consistency, and practice is a direct reflection of what you are. At times we practice really, really well, and at times we fade off, and then we practice well, then we fade off, and that's exactly what occurs a little bit with us right now in the games. We'll execute, then we take a little pause, and then we figure it out again. And to be great, it's got to be an every day, every minute deal, and we got to get this right out here, and it's getting right. Is it perfect yet? No, but as soon as we can get that handled, it'll start translating. Over, and we got to buy into it. I think the guys have seen it. That, we've practiced much better than we practiced last year, but we're still not at the so-called, I would say, championship standard yet.
Is that youth?
A little bit of youth and a little bit of understanding that every play matters, in my opinion. I mean, every snap matters. Whenever you get into a game that it's all equal, every snap matters. So we're getting there. We're getting there, but it's still, been our preach for the last month.
You had 222 rushing yards against William & Mary, and granted, you're playing maybe the best defensive line in the country this past weekend, but your best runs are the sweep and Marshawn's touchdown run. Where do you feel your running game is progress-wise at this point? Or is it hard to say just because
It's much more improved. We're way ahead of where we were last year, and we got to, just like I said, the consistency. Those guys were very, very good up front, so we wanted to get the ball outside, and that was smart. And we had Steiny and Searles does a great job putting the run game together, and we all came to the conclusion that that's what we had to do. And then when they started taking that away and you had to go back inside, you're going against guys that are all going to be playing on Sunday. All of them are. And so we had to battle through that, and we picked our spots and found a way. But we just need to get consistent. This week is going to be huge for us. We need to be able to run the ball consistently, and it's going to be a major emphasis. It will be all year.
I don't think Trey got too many snaps on Saturday. It did have that one block on that run by Dion, I think. Is he starting to do more? Are you seeing more out of him on the field right now?
With Trey?
Trey.
Yeah. He's getting back. There's times where he looks back to normal, and there's times that he doesn't. But every day he just gets a little bit better, which is, if there's a guy that you're pulling for, come on. That guy's, he exemplifies our team. He's a hard worker. He's a team guy. He was as happy as anyone, on Saturday. He didn't play a lot. So, we were hoping that he gets back to normal.
Sam Rogers had more plays than any other back on Saturday night. You guys obviously have a lot of trust in him right now.
We do. Yeah, we do. Absolutely.
How big is he? You check down to him a lot? He's a good blocker. What kind of football?
Good football player. Yeah, he's just a really good football player. He's not the fastest, he's not the biggest, he's not this, he's not that, but at the end of the day, he's always where he needs to be and always doing his job. So you got to play that guy like that. He's doing his job all the time, so that's the reason we did.
Frank said he might have the best hands in the team.
He's got really good hands.
For all he does, too, I guess.
Yeah, he does. He's got nice mitts.
It looked like he wanted to throw on that reverse, and he pulled it down. Is it tough for a non-quarterback to do? And
that's why we made it. That's why we put him in. We said all week long that in a critical moment in the game, and the ball, it just ended up the ball was on the right hash. I think the ball was on the 20-some-odd yard line or 30. It was right around there. But we said anywhere between the 30 and the 20, the first opportunity in a critical situation, we're going to run the reverse pass. And We got the snap, ran around the end, and we said all week long if we didn't have it, we need to make a great decision. Either it's going to be a great throwaway or you got to run it. And as usual, Sam does what he does.
With a guy like that, do you wonder? I mean, you've been able to generate really important roles for him as a tight end / fullback type role, and coming out of the backfield and catching balls and things like that. But do you kind of wonder how people miss on a guy like that, maybe at a program where he could even play even more and have a bigger role?
I'm glad he's here.
To
answer your question.
Yeah.
How much did you use in week 1 that you took out for week 2? Specifically, I'm thinking if we saw the 2 tight ends split out wide, some tight end screens with an option to run up the middle, stuff like that. I don't remember seeing anything like that on Saturday.
We did it one time. We had one snap where we did it and ran the zone play, and it was on the right hash coming out from the shoe or the closed end. But no, you're going to change, just like you're going to change from week to week based on who you're playing. There's things that we'll do in this game that we haven't done in the first 2 games, predicated on what they do. So, everything's packaged. Everything is tried to be tied together as best you can to set up play action and tie your pass game with your run game. So I think that's what we're trying to do, is constantly giving that defense a little bit different looks and a little bit different things to prepare for. So the more things you put on film, the more things they got to prepare for. So, but you can't screw up your own guys, if that makes sense too.
Going back to Sam for a second, he caught that ball on the sideline. They said he couldn't see it in the lights. It's like the Michael Brewer sort of jump pass on the sideline. When you watched that on film, what did you think of Michael's decision to throw that one?
He got a minus and a good job. You got to be very, you can't take guys' aggressiveness away, but you also can't turn the ball over. And it was a no good job.
That's what Frank said.
That's perfect. Yeah.
You said you found out that Michael could take a hit and deliver the throw still. You haven't had a lot of time to work with him, but what else have you found out that maybe you're surprised about or that you weren't sure of?
That was the only thing.
Yeah.
You got to see everything you needed to see during training camp, and but we didn't want to hit Mark and we didn't want to hit Michael, because if you lose one of those guys right now, we wanted to. We really did, because there's nothing that you can't, regardless of what you do and how much you evaluate and all that. That's the difference between a good quarterback and a great quarterback, is how they can handle when guys are really hitting you when you're not in the pink jersey or yellow jersey or whatever we use here, the yellow jersey. And I know he's tough, and he keeps his head down, he keeps his eyes down the field, and he doesn't flinch. And you got the living dog beat out of him, to be quite honest with you. And you found a way to keep going, and the guys that I've had that have been really, really good have been that way. So he falls into that quality. He has that quality, I should say.